What's happening, everybody? This is Gayuka Musa, also known as Coach G, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of The Friday Fix. Now, for today's episode, we're going to talk about... Say what now? Oh, right. Okay. Let's do this. Let's start this week's episode with an apology. I want to offer my sincere apology to all the viewers out there for not producing any Friday Fix episodes during the entire month of April. April was an amazing month. It was crazy, it was fun, it was full, it was just jam-packed. It was incredible. But I want to offer that apology for letting anyone down who was expecting a new episode or new episodes throughout the month. So let me do this. Let me describe my April to you, and then we'll get to this week's episode. So, like I said, April was really full. It started out with my girlfriend's birthday, and we had a great time celebrating. We really got to spend some real quality time with each other, and we decided that April was going to be an entire month of celebration. So here's what happened next. Next, my sister and her fiance got married in Jamaica. I mean, here we are on the beach, sipping on rum punches, chilling with family and friends, having a great time in such a beautiful place. And the ceremony and the reception were just so beautiful. And sis, you and your husband, I'm so happy for both of you. Now, the next thing that happened for me was my birthday. And it wasn't just any old regular birthday, it was the big 4-0. And you know what they say about 40? It's the new, I don't know what they say about 40. But I feel great. I'm so excited to be 40. I've been alive for 4 decades on this world, and I'm so looking forward to the next 4. It's been an amazing journey so far, and I know it just gets better. Now, one of the things that I received as a gift for my 40th birthday was a surprise birthday trip. I mean, like a week-long trip that had golfing and beaches and riding bikes on the shores and ocean and sunrises right on the water. I mean, it was just fantastic. It was so cool. And you know, April had all these great things in it, but there was also this one event in April that wasn't so great. I'm going to call it the Slob War. Because here's what it was. So it was this epic battle between the pollen generating trees of Georgia and my sinuses. And if you've ever seen pollen in Georgia, it's not some light dusting. It's like a green layer on everything. Cars, roads, children, babies, everything. And so my sinuses didn't stand a chance. And I ended up having a sinus infection for several days in April. And I was frankly a hot slobbering mess. I mean, you would not have wanted to see me on camera at all. So that was one of the things that happened. But on the flip side, you know, one of the beautiful things that happened in April was my daughter made me a birthday card. And this is something she's been doing for years. And the thing that always amazes me is that I always find it hard to imagine that her cards can get any better because she makes fantastic cards. I mean, they're amazing. I mean, the people at Hallmark, they should be ashamed for the stuff they put out. My daughter's cards are great. And so, true to form, she makes me a new card this year, and it just punches me right in the heart. You know, it's like I was so emotional. We were out at a restaurant around the corner, and I was so emotional, and I was a hot slobbering mess all over again, but this time for a much better reason. Yeah, see, right there. Matter of fact, we'll zoom in, see? So, she makes these cards, and they're just fantastic. And in addition to her card that she made for me, which, best card ever, I also got some other cards in the mail. And I got three cards from my grandmother, which was such a treat. I got a real kick out of that. And they all had 40 written on the outside of them. And one of them even had money in it. I mean, I was shocked. I mean, I don't know about you, but I haven't gotten money in a card in like 20 years. So that was fantastic. That was so amazing. So April was a phenomenal month, and my birthday was really awesome. I'm still feeling the glow from that. So now that I've told you about April and all the great things that happened and all the experiences that I had, I got a question for you. Did you notice the gator? Let me help you out. Scroll. No, go back. Come back. Go. Right there. You see? Let me zoom in on it. You see that? That's me on the golf course. That was a real shot. I hit my golf ball like within 20 feet of this big alligator. I mean, it had this huge belly. I don't know if it was full or hungry. I don't know, but I didn't want to find out. So I got in there. I hit my shot, got out of there as quickly as I could. But that was one of the beautiful things about that birthday trip. There was so much wildlife. So enough of that. On to this week's episode. The topic for this week's episode is the power of unconditional love. Now, let me start off with a definition, because to me, unconditional love is really about loving someone's existence. Just loving the fact that they exist, that they're here. The love is not based on any circumstance. It's not based on what happens or doesn't happen. It is all about the fact that they exist, that they are. That's it. And when I think about how we improve, how we bring in more unconditional love in our relationships, what really occurs to me is that it's a shift. It's a shift in what it is we're loving and appreciating. So it's a shift from loving and appreciating human doing to loving and appreciating human being. No longer focusing on this conditional way of seeing what people do or don't do, what people say or don't say, and shifting to loving and appreciate the fact that they are who they are, that they're being who they are. That's what unconditional love is really all about. And unconditional love has so much power in your relationship. Now, to be fair, it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to fix all of the problems that you might be facing. You do require other skills in a relationship, but the real power in unconditional love lies in the fact that what it really accomplishes is it establishes a newer and higher baseline for how you operate in that relationship. So let me describe it this way. Think of your relationship as a 100-story building where the very top floor, matter of fact, not even the top floor, the rooftop deck on top of the building represents the most blissful and connected moments in your relationship. It represents those things that you really can't live without. You've experienced them and there's just no going back. And the first floor, imagine that part of the building where there's this cranky security guard and there are doors to the outside world. People can exit the building there. Imagine that is where the low points in your relationship exist. That's where all the fights and all the moments where you feel like you can't stand to be with that person for one more second. All of that happens on the first floor. And so unconditional love is the set of elevators in your building, whereas conditional love is a set of stairs. But it's really even more than that. So not only as elevators does the unconditional love get you to the top faster and easier. So not only does it have that aspect to it, but what unconditional love really does is it raises the floor. It makes the bottom level not, the first level where people are exiting the building, but the bottom level is now like the 60th floor, and that's as low as you can go. And unconditional love raises that baseline in your relationship so that as you have disagreements, as you might have the occasional argument, as you have these moments of conflict or things just aren't fun or you're disconnected in some way, as you experience those things, you don't drop all the way to the depths that you usually do when the love in your relationship is based on condition. You don't go down quite so far, and therefore it's so much easier to get back to the top, and it's just a much shorter trip all around. So in today's fix, I'd like to share with you two of my favorite ways to really bolster and strengthen the unconditional love in your relationship. And honestly, there's lots of ways to do it. And as a matter of fact, I'd love to hear in the comments below, what are your favorite ways to really infuse and strengthen unconditional relationship in your relationship? But here are my two favorites. So for the first one, the first one is simply this: stop giving a damn. So let me explain this one in this way. If you're a regular watcher of Friday Fix episodes, you know that I like to infuse quotes to help drive home a point. Quotes are these wonderful nuggets of wisdom from past and present that really just succinctly sum up the power of a given idea. And so when I thought about this episode, and I thought about quotes on unconditional love that I've read or that I kind of remember a piece of, I went out and did some research, and I came across some of the ones that I'd heard before. Like there's this one, the greatest gift you can give to others is unconditional love and acceptance. That's one by Brian Tracy. And I completely agree with that. But to me, it's kind of vanilla. It's kind of ordinary. And I came across this quote from this lady named Martha Beck. And this quote that I'm about to share, I mean, it really kind of stopped me in my tracks. It made me think about unconditional love in a very different way. So the quote goes like this: in fact, when care appears, unconditional love often vanishes. Think about that for a second. Unconditional love often vanishes when care appears. And that doesn't seem right, does it? Most people think of love and caring and all that stuff as kind of together. But think about it this way. When you care about something, you give a damn one way or the other about what happens or doesn't happen, about what's said or not said. And so that's a conditional way of seeing a situation or an interaction. And that conditional way of seeing it, that caring, often makes unconditional love less possible. It often kind of squeezes it out of the relationship. So what I want you to do is just stop giving a damn. And here's another way to think about it. So let's say you're on the road, you're driving your car, and you're on the highway, and you're on the way home, maybe running an errand, I don't know. You're out on the highway, and there's other cars out there. So there's a car in the lane that you're in, right in front of you, and they put on their blinker, and they're getting off at the next exit. So you probably noticed that they're getting off. I mean, they're right in front of you. You see their lights flashing. You might even have to slow down or switch lanes to get around them because maybe they're starting to slow down and they're just kind of in your way. So you notice what happens, you respond to what happens, but I'm pretty sure you don't really care about what's happening. And here's what I mean. You're not thinking to yourself, I wonder if they're going to make a left or a right when they get to the top of the on-ramp, or I wonder if they're running low on gas, or if they're going home, or maybe they're going to work, or maybe they forgot something at home and they're getting off and they're going to turn around and get back on the highway in the other direction. Maybe they're going to the grocery store. You don't have those kinds of thoughts or that level of conversation with yourself about that type of experience because ultimately you just don't care. You don't really give a damn. It's not really important. It's not what matters in that moment. What matters is that you see what happens, you respond to what happens, and you keep going about your business. And I like to think of unconditional love kind of in that way, that it doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter what the other person is doing. You love them anyway. Your love is not dependent on what happens or doesn't happen. So stop giving a damn. Now, the second thing I want you to do to really bolster unconditional love in your relationship is I want you to stop moonlighting as an accountant. I know you're like, what? So hear me out. I want you to stop keeping track. I want you to stop keeping score, keeping a tally of the wrongs and the rights, the dids and the didn'ts, the things that worked and the things that didn't. Because ultimately, as you acquire that inventory, as you keep track and account for all of those different moments in that way, you're really building a conditional framework that, sets the stage for your caring, your love, your appreciation, your attention to be based on what happens or doesn't happen. And again, unconditional love sets that baseline so much higher, and when you start bringing in conditional thinking and conditional behaviors, you start to squeeze out unconditional love. You start to lower that baseline back somewhere near the bottom floor, and that's when people are trying to exit the building. So to review, I want you to love and appreciate and shift your love and appreciation of your partner from human doing to human being, loving them for the fact that they're here and that they exist. And the two ways that I want you to bolster and strengthen the unconditional love in your relationship is I want you to stop giving a damn and stop moonlighting as an accountant. So, thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Until next time, this is Coach G reminding you to free your mind so your life will follow. Take care of each other, all right?